Welcome everyone to the second ever DuneCon. Title of my talk today is There Will Be, and I'll get to that in a second. But before that, I wanted to tell a little story. A couple of weeks ago, I was a bit worried. I was worried that, the crypto market is looking really bad, and so I was afraid that none of you would show up today. But luckily, the BTC price went up 20% last week. And so, presumably all of you went like this and decided to come to DuneCon after all. But no, seriously, I hope and believe that none of you actually showed up because the Bitcoin price was up last week. But on a more serious note, the industry we're in has had a rough year. I was actually at this very venue a year ago, and everything seemed fine. There was another crypto conference, bunch of people, and sure, prices were down a little bit, but still, it didn't feel like a big problem. So felt a little bit like this. But on this very stage, literally here, there were representatives from a specific company called FTX, and obviously, we all know what happened. And that was just a week after this conference. Here a year ago. And obviously that changed a lot of things for our space. And, the whole sentiment, the vibe around everything took a sharp turn for the worse. And so I'll be honest with you, sort of finding the right words to say to you today didn't come as easily as when we had our conference in Berlin last year. These are rough times. And so one has to dig a little bit deeper on, the reasons why we're doing this. Why bother to cope with all of this roller coaster, and why are we here? So last year, I did a little impersonation, and so this year I'm going to do something a little bit shameless as well. I'm not going to impersonate Steve Ballmer, but I will lean on another technology legend, Steve Jobs, this year. So, in 1983, Steve Jobs, this is 7 years after Apple's founding, and Steve Jobs said, people ask me, why should I buy a computer in my home? And, well, to learn about it, to run some fun simulations. But other than that, there's no good reason to buy one for your home right now. But there will be. And I found this quite profound that 7 years after the founding of one of the most revolutionary technology companies ever built, with one of the most visionary leaders of any company, a well-articulated leader, 7 years into his company, it was still a little bit tough for him to articulate exactly why a home computer matters. And so I think we're all here because we believe that there will be. We think our industry is going to matter, but nevertheless, it's rough. It's a rough ride, right? So what keeps us going? Why do we do this? And I think that comes down to two fundamental questions. Why are we here, and what are we working towards? And so to answer the first question, why are we here? Well, for Dune, our mission is to make crypto data accessible. That's why we're here. So let's break that down. If we look at crypto is a new technology. And as many new technologies, they start out looking like a toy. It's initially expensive, and then over time, costs can come down. So when you have a new technology, it is often clunky, a bit expensive, weird. And so you need to start on the high end of the market to really be able to sell to anyone. And so this is played out with many technologies. The smartphone being one example. We also see here a Tesla Roadster. And the Tesla Roadster was definitely a toy for the rich. But it was also the start of the electric vehicle revolution and bringing the world into sustainable energy. And so what happened there was you start on the high end, you have an expensive product, and then over time, you can get volumes up and prices down. So I think for our industry, we're essentially in the Model S stage of development, where The Model S had bigger quantity, was a bit more affordable, a bit more practical than the Roadster, but still essentially a luxury car. And I think that's where we are. Prices, gas prices, usability is coming down. It's becoming easier, but it's still, relatively on the high end of the market too, if you will. But we've seen technologies time and time again, become truly democratizing with this dynamic. And crypto, to this day, despite everything that's happened, has some amazing properties. So it's a technology that is pro-innovation. It's pro-tinkering, challengers, builders, as opposed to the existing financial system that is pro-incumbents and anti-innovation in a very, very serious way. Crypto is global by default, open access by default, which means anyone with an internet connection can tap into it. And it's an inherently anti-fragile system. So all these bad things happening so far, the crypto system gets better. Whenever there's a hack, whenever there's something bad happening, it is really bad, but it's also making the system better. And so it's a true evolutionary force playing out in the space. Secondly, there's data. And obviously, I don't really need to sell many of you in this room on the importance of data. But what we know is that big tech and top investors really thrive on data. It's one of the key ingredients to their success. But unfortunately, all of it is closed and proprietary. And so while there's billions of people in the world producing data and sort of, being part of this data machine, it's only in the thousands number of people that can actually analyze and access this data, right? The employees at big companies, essentially. And furthermore, there's maybe only 10 companies that actually has a meaningful data scale and can really leverage that for the business. So that brings us to our third word here, which is accessible. And for us, accessible means both that you can actually touch it, like anyone can access the data, but also importantly, it's easy to use. Anyone can easily use the data. And so I'll tell you a little story. I'm not the best at vacuum cleaning at home, admittedly. But the thing is, it's quite annoying to you go over to the closet, you find your vacuum cleaner, you have to draw out the wire, plug it into the wall, maybe set some settings, start working, and then you have to do the whole thing in reverse order when you're done. Pretty annoying. But we've had a small revolution at home recently, and that is that we got a Dyson. So we basically have now this thing that's up into the wall. It just stands there. You walk over to it, you click the button, and then you start vacuum cleaning. And with that, I've become a way better vacuum cleaner. And that is because it's a truly accessible vacuum cleaner. And so, if you will, we're trying to be the Dyson of crypto data. So that's our mission, making crypto data accessible. And what's the world we're trying to create? What are we working towards? Well, our vision is for data to empower every participant of the crypto economy. And every participant is a lot of different folks and a lot of different need for data. So we think that empowering data wizards on Dune.com is only the beginning of what we're trying to achieve. And so we think of Dune less and less as an app and more as a data hub. So we have this amazing slogan that's on much of the swag today, which is the data must flow. And I'm going to do something a little bit silly. So see what I did there? And hopefully the query results come back like this. You all see what I did there? This is, by the way, what my co-founder Mats typically refers to as the much hated pie chart. But you can discuss that with him later. But anyway, the data must flow chart, it looks like this. We think the world of blockchain data is getting increasingly complex. There's a lot of different layers, systems, chains, context, related off-chain data, and it's all very heterogeneous and hard to manage. And so what we're trying to do is to sort of help all of this work together, and across storage, data transformation, querying, and crucially collaboration, We want to sort of get all of this data flowing. And then, as I alluded to, also, enable more types of use cases and interfaces to this data. So instead of just building dashboards, we want to empower you with AI, APIs, data syncs, data exporting in and out of Dune, and really enable a lot more use cases. Building, researching, different workflows, environments, and really make all of this data flow. With this, and I'm not going to give it away too much because our amazing head of product, Hannah, is going to present after me, but we think AI is a massive paradigm shift that we're leaning into full force. And I think you will also now see more and more Dune as infrastructure, less as only an app and more as different ways for you to play with. And I think there's something I think about quite a lot for Dune, and I think you probably should think about too, is like a business should focus on what uniquely differentiates you. And this is true for any business, but it's particularly true for a startup in an environment where capital is scarce. And so I think about this for Dune, and I think you should think about this for your business. And hopefully, storing, transforming, querying data, all these things takes a lot of effort. And this is what we try to do really well. And so I think that's a question for all of you, like, should you be doing that, or should you just tap into, the infrastructure that exists? And across everything we build, we have a few things we try to focus on and we try to be the best on. One thing is collaboration, it's having the best data, and it's ease of use. So we think that open blockchain data is a massive new thing. And a public data set is a very interesting new phenomenon. And what we're trying to do is to enable unprecedented collaboration on top of that data and together with that data. And that doesn't mean that everything needs to be private or everything needs to be public or like anything like that. But it means that it's a very high probability that someone else looked at some part of the stack, someone did something that is relevant to you. And you don't need to replicate that work if you lean in and work together with everybody else in some shape or form. We think that having the best data is crucially important for a data business. So the way we think about that is data quality, data convenience, and data coverage. And having all these things is paramount to a data business. And then lastly, it's ease of use and making it actually practically easy to work with this data, have less time from when you have an idea to when you actually have your result. These are basically why we're here. It is making crypto data accessible, and what we're working towards is, there was a lot of clicks, data empowering every participant of the crypto economy. And another little thing I wanted to share, Dune is now 5 years old. And to quote a legendary Wu-Tang song, there's a Raekwon bar, which is, "Staying alive was no jive," and from the song Cream. And frankly, any startup will have a hard time staying alive, but particularly in the crypto space, it is not to be taken for granted to stay alive. So I'm very proud of Dune actually staying alive for half a decade. I'm excited that we're a lean and mean team of just over 40 people. We raised our Series B 2 years ago. We have most of that money still in the bank, and we plan to stick around. And as I alluded to, there were people on this stage that were seemingly, a big deal that suddenly went poof. I'm proud that I know Dune won't be like that. We're gonna stick around, and it's a great achievement, I think, to have been around for half a decade now. And back to those early days, 5 years ago, 2018, 2019, what Mats and I did a lot was going to events. And so that's why I think today is so important. Independent of the sentiment, on Twitter, in the media, all these things, when we went around to Ethereum hackathons in 2018 and 2019, we found incredibly driven, passionate people that cared about the same things, that were building and iterating and really, trying to move this space forward, and very, very mission driven. And so that is what today is all about. It's meeting other people that care about the same things and, really getting into it and meeting and feeling all that energy. So we're very, very excited to bring the best data minds in this space together here today. And for me, the highlight is not standing on the stage talking to you. It's seeing what all of you are up to, seeing your talks, having chats with you. And, I'm also, if we look at the data, I'm not the most interesting person here because yesterday, Hildabi flipped me on the Dune leaderboard. Now become a DuneCon tradition that I get dethroned at the event. So hopefully this time you can also maintain the position. I'm rooting for you. But there's so many of you that are brilliant. Some will present, but a lot of you just attending are also like doing incredibly cool stuff. So I'm very excited for all of us to be together. So last year I was leaning on Steve Ballmer. This year I will be impersonating Steve Jobs a little bit. And so why should I care about crypto? Well, to learn about it, to run some fun transactions. But other than that, there's no good reason to care right now. But there will be. And with that, the data must flow. Have an amazing day. I can't wait to see all of you around.